Good morning. Oh, that is delightful. Having a good coffee this morning. Happy Friday, uh, everyone. I hope everyone is geared up for a nice weekend. Hope everyone's week is going well. I'm going to give it a couple minutes before I dive in, um, just because it takes a little while for people to join. Usually a couple minutes. People start joining in. Good morning. Good morning. Nice to see you. Um, Always the first one here. Always the first good morning. Nice to see you. Um, I in the middle of teaching a 28-day class in spiritual alchemy, and I taught a 1 hour class in spiritual alchemy last night. So spiritual alchemy is a big theme in my life right now. Also happen to be working on a master's thesis on spiritual alchemy. So I mean, I say working on um, gathering materials. I haven't started writing yet, um, but I'm gathering research and materials. So um, I guess that's working on. I guess we'll count that as working on it. Um, so anyway, what are we talking about today? Today we are talking about the unconscious mind and intention. Um, and I may have a little bit of a different take on the unconscious mind. It's informed by the fact that amongst many things, I'm a certified hypnotherapist. And so dealing with the unconscious mind is a big part of, I don't often do a lot of hypnotherapy with people, but I am still aware of the effect of the unconscious mind and how powerful, how incredibly powerful it is. And the real sort of the interesting thing about the unconscious mind is it's unconscious. It's by definition, it's something that we're not aware of. So we don't pay much attention to it. But it is, for the most part, running our lives behind the scenes. Quick off topic question. Do you have any thoughts on the consciousness of nature or tornadoes? I have always been fascinated with tornadoes, and especially right now with the tornado outbreaks. Yeah, so from a shamanic perspective, weather is conscious. So weather itself is a spirit, and individual sort of weather events would be spirits as well. So a tornado would be a spirit of a really specific type. In I have very little practice, but some training in weather shamanism, and in weather shamanism, your helping spirit for weather shamanism is some form of weather, right? And that could be a tornado or could be free. I have two, and they are both types of rain, which is interesting because I actually really like rain, and always have. I've always liked um, watching the rain, watching storms, that sort of thing. So, if you feel pulled toward it, it might actually be a helping spirit. So, but that would be definitely something to explore shamanically. Um, so yeah, we can definitely be pulled towards our helping spirits. We can feel affinity for them. The converse is also true. We can also have helping spirits that we don't feel affinity, that we feel aversion to, and there's a reason for that. There's something usually that there's some lesson there, something we need to overcome, something we need to learn. Very often, not very often, but often enough, people will get a power animal. For example, they'll do power animal retrieval or have a power animal retrieval done. Oh, good morning, and what a great wish. It is extra amazing today. I'm drinking out of the big cup today. So this is I don't know how big that is. It's my biggest coffee cup. It's like a venti or something. If you're a Starbucks person. Thank you. It is quite delicious this morning. I ground the beans this morning, so it's very fresh. And the cat wants to come up, and maybe she'll come up and say hi. I don't know. Every time oh, here she is. Here's Phoebes. Hi, Phoebe. Say hello. There's Phoebe. She likes to every time I start talking to clients or teaching a class or doing a live, she likes to jump up in my lap because she knows I'm not paying attention to her at the moment. She wants to be she wants to be part of the show. So Um, yeah, so sometimes people will get a power animal and they're like, "Oh," and they'll like rock back. I'm afraid of that. If it maybe it's a spider or a bat or something, people are like, "Oh, that's so gross," or whatever. If there's an aversion there, that can indicate that there's something really important for you to learn. Like you know, everybody wants to get a lion or an eagle or something, right, as a power animal, and they think that there's no with power animals there's no hierarchy. There's not one is not better than the other, one does not hold more power than the other. I often say like a blue whale and a mosquito have the same amount of power. They're both spirits, and the size that they were when they were alive doesn't matter, and the whether or not they're predator or prey doesn't matter. They're there for a reason. They're there for to teach you and to guide you and to bring power to you. So um, kind of an interesting phenomenon. So, what are we talking about today? I'm talking about the power of your unconscious mind, right? Um, and I'm also going to talk about intention, and I'm going to relate them. I'm going to talk about how intention and your unconscious mind work together to essentially create your reality. And this, if you do any sort of manifestation work, any law of attraction stuff, any kind of magical work whatsoever, or any kind of spiritual work, intention is really important. And and having an understanding of how your mind works is useful, I think. And then we can make we can make informed choices about our practice and what we do. So if you see me doing something weird down here, I apologize. It's nothing untoward. I'm patting my cat so she doesn't jump up on my desk and knock everything off. And she can be a little insistent for attention. Um, so let's start by talking about the unconscious mind. Let's talk about your unconscious specifically. And I promise along the way, I'm going to give you some little demonstrations of how powerful your unconscious mind is. So most people know that you have two, sort of this dual mind thing going on. You have a conscious mind. Your conscious mind is simply what you're aware of in this moment. What are you experiencing right now? What are you attending to, right? Attending with your attention. What are you attending to? Whether, I've got ADHD, so my attention's all over the place anyway. But in the moment, I could say, "Oh, I'm paying attention to this," or "I'm paying attention to my coffee or my cat." Even when we have divided attention, right? Like this is taking place in our conscious mind, and in our conscious mind, we can hold something like 7 to 9 bits of information at any given time. A phone number, your social security number, what have you. You can hold it for a short-term period of time. And we might call that like working memory, short-term memory, something you need to remember. Um, I can usually do that with a number. If I like repeat it over and over again, I won't lose the number. But then the second I don't need it, it's gone. When I was in high school, I had a girlfriend who still friends with her, but had a girlfriend in high school. She remembered every phone number. She had this memory that was just amazing. Every phone number, address, birthday, anything that anybody said to her one time um, was was unbelievable. Like just really, really crazy. I was like, I, you know, I was like, what's so and so's number? It was, before we had cell phones, and you had everybody's number, and you had to remember or write down or have a phone book or call information, all 411, and ask, and they would charge you for 411. Everything costs, I talked to my daughters about how long distance calls used to cost money. when you called like 2 towns over or the next state or whatever, and they're like, "That's crazy." I'm like, "I know. I know, but that's how it was." In the olden days, I'm like my grandfather, when I was a child. Um, but, so anyway, um, working memory is what you're holding right now. Now, your unconscious mind is very interesting. I'm gonna talk a little bit about how your memory works. So your unconscious mind holds everything else until it's ready to be retrieved. So I'll give you a little example of that you can play along at home with this. So if I were to ask you right now, what color is your mailbox? Most people, what color is your mailbox? Most people will recall. You might have to think about it a little bit oh, what color is my mailbox? If you haven't really paid attention to it, but you can remember, my mailbox is white, or my mailbox is black or green or whatever color it is. Or what color is your refrigerator if you're not standing in front of it, right? And you will recall that. You'll recall that piece of information. Where was that memory before I asked for it? Like, you weren't consciously thinking, I doubt you were consciously thinking about your mailbox or your refrigerator before I asked. And yet that memory was retrieved somehow, right? And was it your conscious mind that retrieved that memory? And the answer is no. You weren't like consciously sorting through your neurons, right, to try to retrieve the color. You gave a command, essentially. It might not be in those words, I command you to find the color of my mailbox. But you gave a command to your unconscious, and your unconscious produced a memory, right? And that this is how memory works. Now, the interesting thing about memory is that it's not like a recording. It's not like a video or audio recording or a photograph. Memory, as it turns out, when we remember things, is reconstructed. So your unconscious mind will piece things together to serve them up to you. This is why memory can be really fallible, right? Why eyewitness accounts and things like that are really unreliable. And our memory of things, like, I know, I can remember doing stuff as a kid, but I don't have picture perfect memory, or like, you know, I might remember a conversation as a kid, or something somebody said to me, but I can't piece the entire thing together because so much stuff has happened in between. And our memory is pass through our filters. So do our perceptions, actually pass through lots of filters. What are filters? Filters are things like beliefs and education and meaning, right? A meaning is a belief, a type of belief. And I'm going to spend a little time this morning talking about belief, because belief is really the core of how we understand the world. We honestly we trick ourselves into believing that the world is very objective, that we are just observing things as they are. And I will hopefully demonstrate to you how that is not actually the case. I was looking for something. I was looking for something purple, and I don't have anything purple on my desk. So I'll give you a small example of how. Good morning. Good morning. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Um, so, in the world of physical photons, the color purple does not exist. There's no such thing as a purple photon. What happens is in our eyes, we have red, green, and blue photoreceptors. And things we perceive as purple are reflecting blue, and we know that blue, and when we mix blue and red color and with our paints, it makes a purple, right? We perceive this color purple. There are no purple photons. It doesn't exist. The color purple does not exist, and yet we experience it. Why do we experience it? Well, The color purple is what happens when we get these red and blue photons hitting our color receptors in our eye, but there's a lack of green. So our perception of the color purple is our brain making up for a lack of green photons. Instead of perceiving, a blue and a blue and a red, we perceive a color purple. Um, this is just one minor example of how our experience of the world is subjective, very subjective. In fact, there aren't really colors at all. It's just different frequencies of light hitting our eyes. And we say that, on this at this vibrational level, at this frequency, that is more red, and at this frequency level, that's more blue, and at this frequency level, it's more in the yellow or infrared, ultraviolet, going into X-rays and other types of electromagnetic frequency. So, um, so again, there's no color purple, but we see purple. We experience purple. Somehow our consciousness, our the perceptual organs of our brain and our eyes and our consciousness combine to make the things that we experience as purple. I find that to be very cool. Particularly, I'm as an artist, somebody I paint, and when I'm looking at things, artists, I will tell you, like particularly if they're trained in realistic type painting and drawing, they're looking at things in a the real skill of art is training. We say training the eye, but it's not the eye; it's training the perception. Right, and so they're looking at things like, we might non-artists might look at something and say, "That's blue," but an artist is like, "Oh, that's blue, but it's partially in shadow, so it's desaturated blue, and the light on the other side is a warm light, so there's a reddish tint to the blue," right? And so there's this, way of looking at things when if you learn from a good teacher, if you learn, how to perceive as an artist perceives, it opens up this whole world. It's one of the reasons why I love painting, is that I don't look at things the same way anymore. You look at anything and any object, any shape, any pattern of light, and kind of be blown away by it. And I'll never forget, I had ages ago, I had like decades ago, I was training in Buddhism, or studying Buddhism with this teacher, and this teacher apparently this was told to me by another student, was out for a walk with someone who was an artist, was a visual artist who worked in like commercial art, doing like graphic design and stuff. And they were walking along the road, and there was some litter lying on the side of the road. It was like food wrappers and stuff. And this Buddhist teacher said, "Oh, what a pity that somebody has littered here." And the graphic artist kind of leaned back and go, "Yeah, but look at all those colors, right?" Food food packaging, a lot of food packaging is very colorful. Particularly, I don't know in other countries, but particularly in the U.S., right? A lot of food packaging are, bright blues and bright yellows and bright reds and greens and super saturated colors. So our perception is the experiences that are arising in our consciousness, and they're coming through the filters that exist in our unconscious mind. So what does our unconscious mind hold? So as I said in the beginning, our conscious mind can hold on to working memory, 7, 9, maybe 11 pieces of information, if you're really good with working memory. And you can it's hard to pay attention to multiple things at the same time. I have twin daughters, and when they were little and they would come home from school, they would both talk to me at the same time. Where they go, "How was your day?" Well, da 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 over here, and da 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 over here, a million miles an hour, telling me about everything that every friend did, everything every teacher said, whatever. And in the beginning, it was really overwhelming. Eventually, I could actually pay attention to both at the same time. I could kind of divide my consciousness, and this is probably true for any parent of multiples. You divide my consciousness and pay attention to both girls at the same time. And there would be people who would, like family members or friends or whatever, who would witness this and go, what just happened? I'm like, oh, well, and explain what happened over here and explain what happened over here. It's like, how did you get that? I'm like, I don't know. It's just my brain trained itself eventually to pay attention to both girls at the same time, not wanting to show favoritism, not wanting I couldn't figure out how to go, okay, you tell me your day first, and you tell me your day, because somebody would be upset. Right? Um, so I just learned how. And there are people who can do this. You can train your mind to do things like that, do multiple things, but only so many things before you become completely overwhelmed. You essentially would drop into a trance. There are ways that hypnotists work where they're overloading your conscious mind, overloading particularly your sympathetic nervous system, until it kind of like gives up and your parasympathetic nervous system takes over. So your unconscious mind, and I'll give you a little demo of this as well. Your unconscious mind is taking in millions of bits of information every second. Every second of your life, whether you are awake or asleep or unconscious. You're never actually fully unconscious. Your conscious mind changes state. It becomes quieter. There's less stuff coming up in it, but your unconscious is still going. This is why when we dream, oftentimes really weird stuff can happen in our dreams. This is when the unconscious mind takes over and starts really feeding imagery, metaphors, memories, um, all kinds of stuff. The dream life is rich, rich, rich with what's going on inside of us. So your unconscious mind is taking in millions of bits of information at any given time. And I'll give you a little demo of that you can play along at home. So right now, you are probably not aware of your big toe, unless it was hurting or something like that, and it was drawing your attention away. But when I mention it, suddenly you become aware of your big toe, and you can think about it. You can direct your attention to your big toe, right? Um, and it's not that your big toe didn't exist until you consciously observed it. It's just that the sensation was there, and your the part of your unconscious mind that tells you what's important to pay attention to said, there's nothing really important going on here. Pay attention to something else. The moment, we'll take care of this, right? Your unconscious mind keeps your heart beating. It keeps you breathing when you're not consciously breathing. It keeps your food digesting. So it's running everything. So if you think of the mind like a big ship, the conscious mind is like the captain, is giving directions. Hopefully, the crew is carrying out those directions. Your unconscious mind is everything else, including the crew of the ship, right? Including the helmsman who's steering the ship. Oh, welcome back. Nice to see you again. um, so your unconscious mind is really doing, your conscious mind is trying to control the ship. Hopefully, if you are successful, you're, steering the ship correctly. But everything else that goes on, the engine room, the actual steering, the communication, everything that goes on a big ship, that is equivalent to the unconscious mind. Another example that I've heard that's really, really good, is imagine you're in a giant warehouse, and the warehouse is completely dark and it's full of everything. It's your unconscious mind. And you have a tiny little pen flashlight that you shining around, that has a really thin beam, and you're shining around on just little things in the warehouse. That's your conscious mind. But because the conscious mind is what's in our present awareness, we can often get caught up and think that this is all there is, or this is the most important part of our mind. Um, our habits, good and bad, are stored in our unconscious mind. Our beliefs, so our memories, our habits, our beliefs are stored into our unconscious mind until we retrieve them. So as a child, at some point you probably learned how to tie your shoes. And if you were like me, somebody taught you how to tie your shoes, doing the whole like make the rabbit ear, and then the rabbit runs around the tree and then pops his other ear up from the hole and you pull it tight, right? Or something along those lines. And when first tying your shoes, you had to think about that. Okay, this is a level of what we call conscious incompetence. I know, or, moving into, so there's unconscious incompetence, meaning I don't even know what I don't know. And then we move into conscious incompetence. I know that I'm doing, I know that I need to do something, but I'm not able to really do it. I'm doing it wrong. And then we move into conscious competence. I can do it, but I have to think about each step. And as you practice a skill like walking or tying your shoes or feeding yourself or anything that you've learned, that eventually moves into what we call unconscious competence. It becomes a something we store in our unconscious mind, a program, a routine, a pattern, very much like a computer program that repeats the same instructions over and over again. And all you have to do is hold the command, which is intention. And I'm going to talk about intention. You hold the intention, tie my shoes, and then you don't even think about it. You just do it. Or if I want to get up and walk across the room, I just do that. I hold the intention, get up and walk across the room. When you were a toddler or an infant, you would have to put one foot in front of the other, and it would take a while. You were holding on to furniture and kind of balancing till you got yourself. We, generally speaking, unless something's, some injury or something has happened, we don't think about these things. We just do it, and our body balances itself. It has been relegated. Once you train yourself, it has been relegated to the unconscious. So most of our skills, anything that we have practiced enough, yeah, we still might have to give some conscious input to something. So in painting, for example, um, you know, first learn how to hold a brush correctly, and then how to make brush strokes correctly, and how to load paint on the brush, and all of these things. And there are all of these going through. Okay, load the brush this way, and actually shape the brush as you're loading it with paint, and then make the stroke this way if you want to make a clean edge on something, or do it this way if you want to blend and make a gradient. You know, you have to think about that for some period of time, and then you just sort of start doing it. You just sort of start doing it without putting much thought into. But there might still be a thought, okay, I want a really clean edge here, or I really want to, the shadow here is going around the object, so I want to make a gradient that blends and creates the illusion of form on the canvas. And so there's some thought, and some part of it is unconscious as well. So anything that is a skill, that's something you've learned that you don't really have to think about. If you watch, um, someday I'll work on this because I like cooking, but I'm not, I don't have any training as a professional chef. But I love to watch chefs cut things with a knife, and they're going so fast, and they have their fingers held in a certain way, and the knife is moving in a specific way, and they just know if they're cutting onions or they're cutting something else, this is how to do it. That's a skill that they have to train at over and over again, cut a lot of stuff to work on that. So um and that's important for them to make things consistent and to be efficient in the kitchen as well, to get things moving along. So your unconscious mind holds your skills. Your unconscious mind holds on to your beliefs. Now, you may be able to articulate your beliefs, or you may not. I doubt that you can articulate all of your beliefs. Now, let me explain what a belief is from this perspective. Okay, it's not just something. We often equate belief with spirituality, and that is a part of it. Belief is a part of it. I believe that everything has a spirit. I believe that this. I believe that. A belief is anything that you hold to be true. That's it. Whether or not you can, quote unquote, objectively prove it to be true, or other people agree with you, there's consensus to that, to what you believe in, or you read it in a book, or you heard it on the news, or whatever gauge of truth is for you. Regardless of the objective truth of something, the fact that you hold it to be true makes it a belief. Generally, your beliefs are held in your unconscious, right? So if somebody were to come to my house and say, "Are you John?" I would say yes, because I believe that, part of me anyway, believes that I am John, or believes that's my name anyway, right? Whether that's true or not, whether it shows up on my birth certificate and my driver's license or not, right? And so this is, again, this is common for somebody who's got a nickname. Like, my name isn't Jonathan, but if it was Jonathan and somebody said, "Are you John?" I might say, "Yes, I believe that that's true because people call me John," right? Or my kids call me dad, or whatever. There's a belief. I believe that the sun comes up in the east in the morning, but the reality is that's the earth turning that creates that effect for me. But I believe that happens. That's the experience that I have. Even though I watched it rise this morning, so I had a relatively objective experience. There's no such thing as objective experience. All of our experience is subjective. You don't experience anything in this world objectively, but we can have reality that we work within. We can have reality that we have consensus with other people about what is real, right? Um, you might think I'm real. I might be an AI. You don't know unless you've met me in person. And this video might be AI. I don't think AI is quite this good yet, but it could, someday it will be. I've even generated AI videos in like CapCut, and just to experiment with some of that stuff. They have all these like weird AI filters where you can see what you'll look like as a Fallout character, or you know that sort of thing. It's pretty amazing. But you might not believe I'm real, and that's okay too. I'm okay with that. I don't necessarily believe that I'm real. Um, so our beliefs are held in our unconscious. And remember, our beliefs are anything that we hold to be true. I think it's a really good thing to have a flexible belief system, meaning you can try on different beliefs and test to see how they work for you. How is believing that working for you? We The problem is that we confuse our beliefs for facts very often. And you know, sometimes our beliefs that we confuse for being objective facts, and none of them are, um, sometimes they don't work for us. And so we use a little this is our conscious mind, we use a little discernment to figure out what beliefs aren't working for us. And we can adopt new beliefs. Try them on for size. If you want to adopt a new belief, one of the ways to do that is to look for evidence that your belief is true. So I don't know, I want to believe that all cats are friendly. Maybe that's true, maybe that's not true. But that could be a belief that I want to adopt. So looking for evidence. Well, this cat's sitting here in my lap purring away. Okay, there's a little bit of proof. I've known other cats that haven't been so friendly, but maybe they were just scared or standoffish. So I can look for evidence that supports my belief. Now you have to be careful with this, because you have to use discernment. You don't want to install beliefs in yourself that are harmful or that don't serve you. But you can take on beliefs that are empowering. We can take on more empowering beliefs, and we can let go of disempowering beliefs. So think about something that you believe about yourself that might be disempowering. Like, I'm not good at X. I'm not good at I'm not good at bowling. I'm not a good bowler. I enjoy bowling. I'll go bowling if people invite me, but I've never been really good at it. Um, how could I change that belief into something more empowering? Well, I could say, I'm not good at bowling yet, right? But I know that there are other physical skills that I have learned in my life that I was not good at in the beginning, but I put practice in and I became good at these physical skills later on. So I could learn how to do this. I see this with a lot of people. I see this with a lot of clients. Um, I saw this, I've seen this with students when I taught martial arts. I've seen if somebody is not good at something immediately, without learning it, without any practice, they give up and think that I'm not good at it. I can't do this. I can't do this because I can't is really kind of a dirty phrase to me. Can't yet. You can figure out a way, you know. You may not, you know, I don't know, like I used to play basketball when I was a kid quite a lot. But I wouldn't, I would probably never beat Michael Jordan or LeBron James at one-on-one. But I could get better at basketball if I decided I wanted to play. I could work out, I could build my endurance, I could practice free throws. I would get better at it over time. But a lot of people are like, "Oh, I did this and I can't," right? I get a lot of in meditation, when I teach meditation, people say, "I can't meditate because I can't stop my thoughts." And I'm like, "Well, I've got good news and I've got bad news for you." The good news is you are not dead, and therefore you have thoughts that are arising in your consciousness, and they will continue to do so for the rest of your life. The bad news is you are not a with zero meditation experience, you're not a fully enlightened Buddha yet, able to stop your thoughts at will. So, my apologies that that has not happened, but it's a skill, it's something you get better at over time. But people expect I'm just gonna sit down and I'm gonna be enlightened. That's it. I'm done. One session. Forget the people who've been meditating for, 100,000 lifetimes or even like, 70 years in this lifetime. Forget that. I should be able to sit down and meditate and go into nirvana immediately. Um, that's an unrealistic expectation for most people. If it happens for you, great. That's fantastic. But that doesn't mean that meditation is valueless, right? Meditation is one of the healthiest. There are thousands, just in English, there are thousands of studies of meditation showing tremendous health effects for mental health, for physical health, even social interaction gets better for people who meditate. Um, there's a book that I'm reading that I don't have around me called Metaphysical Millionaires, and it talks about there's a whole chapter about people who have gotten um, people have been really successful who credit daily meditation with that. People like Oprah and Steve Jobs and a bunch of like big financial guys and stuff who credit daily meditation practices and going into their spirituality with becoming really successful. And I'm not saying that people need to um, become millionaires or whatever your goal is, but meditation is just so good for you. I think and again, this is my belief, you don't have to adopt it, that it is such an important practice. It should be like brushing your teeth for most people. It should be something you do every day. It'll actually grow your brain and stave off like age related decline in thinking and cognition, help keep you sharp and clear. I'll never forget, ages ago, I studied sword. I studied at this Korean Zen temple, and the head guy. I don't know what the title is in Korean, but the head guy came out and he I'm sorry to compare it in this, but he was like a little Yoda. He was like this little bald monk, and he comes out and he says, "When you study sword, your mind becomes sharp like the edge of a sword." And it was a very spiritual meditative practice. There were always periods of meditation, there were koans and all kinds of stuff, and you really had to focus with what you were doing because somebody was swinging a sword at you, um, a wooden sword, but it can, they certainly hurt. So your beliefs, your skills, anything that's relegated, your memories, all of this stuff is in your unconscious. Your unconscious is this amazing, powerful tool, and it will scan your environment to let you know what you should be paying attention to. So, let me give you an example of this. So, my first name is John. Um, oh, this is a great question. Is there a differentiation you make between the subconscious and the unconscious mind? I do not make that differentiation. I know that there are some people who make a differentiation between the subconscious and the unconscious mind. I use the word unconscious here because I come from a hypnotherapy background, and the schools of hypnotherapy that I studied use the term the unconscious mind. So, but I think I personally would use them interchangeably, but I have known there to be people who have sort of different divisions of mind, where subconscious is something that's like right at the tip of your tongue, something you can recall immediately, where unconscious is something that is in like long-term storage that takes a while to retrieve. If you've ever had most people have had this experience. I have it all the time. Where you've tried to remember somebody's name. Like maybe you ran into somebody, oh, hey, you, and you can't remember their name, and you have an interaction with them, and it bugs you, and you're trying to think about it. And then you let it go. And 3 days later, that person's name just pops up out of nowhere. You weren't even thinking about them. Um, oh gosh, that was, Jenny Johnson or whatever, whoever it was, right? The name pops into your brain. What happened was your unconscious mind is still working on stuff even after it leaves your conscious mind, even after you stop paying attention to stuff. So in this way, the unconscious mind again is really, really powerful if we know how to use it, right? We can give our unconscious mind direction. If you've ever had um like you buy a car, right? You buy a specific kind of car. So I drive a Subaru Outback, love my Subaru Outback. And so I have it in a very specific color. It's called magnetite gray, I think. It's a silvery gray color. I love it. It's my favorite car color. Love my car. Um, you know, whatever. Once I bought that car, and I know other people have had this experience. I see Outbacks everywhere, and I see Outbacks in the same color. One time I had to parallel park on the street, um, and in front of me was a magnetite gray Outback. Behind me was a magnetite gray Outback, and my Outback was in the middle. They're everywhere, right? All of a sudden, they're everywhere. Is this magic? Did it happen? Did Outbacks start to manifest everywhere? Yes and no, right? What happened was there's a part of my brain that says this is important. In fact, we know this is called the reticular activating system, the RAS. This is the part of your brain that kind of like wakes you up as well. Says, oh, pay attention to this. It alerts you if there's danger, it alerts you if there's something important to pay attention to, something familiar sometimes, like the kind of car you buy. So a great example of this, I think, is so my first name is John, and when I was growing up, that was the most common English male name. Um, I don't know what it is today. It's probably Aiden. When my girls went to preschool, there was like an Aiden, Caden, two Jadens, two Bradens. That sound in that name, it was kind of funny. I'm like, and they'd go, "Oh, Braden did this." I'm like, "Which Braden? Braden this or Braden that?" Um, so uh, it was just funny that became a common sound in the name, where I didn't know anybody named Jaden or Braden or Aiden or Caden growing up. So where I grew up, it was John and Jason were the two most common male names. So I've been in a situation where I'm in a restaurant having a meal with somebody, and the restaurant is crowded and there's a lot of conversation going on, and somebody walks into the restaurant and says my name, says John. Maybe they're Maybe it's somebody who knows me, who recognizes me, or maybe not. Maybe it's somebody speaking to somebody else named John. And instantly my attention is drawn to that person. Pay attention to this person. Now, if you think about that for a minute, I could not consciously be paying attention to the conversation I'm having with the person I'm having dinner with and every other conversation that's going on around me. Consciously, that's just not possible for me to do. But some unconscious part of me is paying attention to everything around me, to everything that is coming in and scanning for what do I need to pay attention to? What is important to me? And that is a really amazing part of the unconscious mind. And it is a part that we can program because we can give our unconscious mind instructions if we know how to do it, if we know how to do it the right way. We can do it through visualization, we can do it through certain types of affirmations, that sort of thing. So if we have if we have a repeated pattern, we're doing visualizations, and I visualize myself. Let's say I want to find a new job, right? So I visualize myself in the new job. I imagine the emotional experience of finding that new job. I see what it's like. I see this. I see that. Not only am I aligning, and alignment is a really important word here. Not only am I aligning my consciousness, my spirit, hopefully aligning my body. I'll take actions to find that job as well. But I'm giving instruction to my unconscious mind. This is what's important. Look for this. Look for this. Look for this. Um, and you will things will come to your attention. Things will be brought to your awareness that you have instructed your unconscious mind to pay attention to. And it's one of the ways manifestation works. It's one of the ways that we bring things into our life by recognizing them, by recognizing opportunities, by looking out for things. Um, I've used this quite a lot in my life to some great success. I'll give you an example. So one of the things that I did a lot of pre-pandemic, or is I'm telling a lot of stories and giving a lot of examples today. I hope that's okay. But I think like this is a great way to learn sometimes. So pre-pandemic, I used to teach a lot of live classes, meaning live in person, not just online. I teach online predominantly now. Since things have gotten, since we've been through it and things have kind of gotten back to normal, I have been thinking I really miss teaching live classes. Miss teaching a group in person. Like I really loved that experience of having, a group of 20 or more people um, in a circle teaching shamanism or whatever. And I thought to myself, I really would like to do that again. But one of the things that's complicated about that is finding a venue, finding a place that's appropriate to teach and that sort of thing. And I had been interacting a little bit online with there is a what's called the Unity Spiritual Center, which is ostensibly a church, but they're kind of non-denominational and they do a lot of meditation and mystical work and that sort of thing. And there's one close by, not far away from where I live. And I've been checking them out, not with the intention of like, oh, I'm gonna wind up teaching there or something. But I've been checking them out, maybe thinking, I should go visit there and see how see their services go and stuff. And I really like their message. And I shared a couple of their Facebook posts. They had a lot of cool inspirational Facebook posts, and I've shared a couple of them. Well, I caught the attention of their minister, their reverend, and she reached out to me and said, "Hey, I saw you were sharing some of our stuff online, and I see that you teach shamanism, and I want to know if you'd be interested in coming and teaching courses on shamanism here at our center." Perfect. So I had a conversation with her, and it went really well, and she attended my a class that I gave online. And so uh, things may or may not work out, but this is an opportunity that kind of came up, that kind of got manifested, partially because the universe is working in my favor and I'm feeding it what I want, but also because I've been paying attention and taking sort of inspired action. That's a really key part of manifestation that a lot of people miss. People think that manifestation is I sit on my couch and I wish really hard and a box of money falls into my lap. And that's not how it normally works. If it works that way for you, that's great. You got to teach me that secret. But, and this is where I'm going to start talking about intention. um, Manifestation really becomes easier when you get into alignment. And what I mean by alignment is that your body, mind, and spirit are all working together for the same thing, for the same goal. And all aspects of your mind, your conscious mind and your unconscious mind, and your spirit, your energy is moving you in that direction. You're moving um towards your dharma, towards your path. When you're moving towards your dharma, obstacles will be moved out of your way. I have experienced that over and over again in my life. It's pretty amazing, actually. Um, I don't consider myself lucky from that perspective. Like, there is luck energy there, but it's you know it's the universe working on my behalf. And I show gratitude for that. I'm not going to take credit for it, but obstacles, when I'm following my path, when I'm being smart and following my path, the universe moves obstacles out of my way. And it has my entire life. Um, so it's been pretty amazing. So let's talk about intention a little bit. And intention from a spiritual perspective, especially. But it is a psycho-spiritual thing. So intention is an alignment. It is a deliberate, meaning I'm doing this on purpose. I have chosen something and now I'm aligning with it. I intend on this. It's a goal, but with oomph behind it, right? Um, we almost always achieve what we intend. Not always, or there's some variation on it or something like that. But we can have a goal, and goals are fine. A lot of people never achieve their goals because it's kind of framed the wrong way. It's sort of like, well, someday I dream about this happening, or that sort of thing. Where an intention is very deliberate. Instead of my goal is someday to here is a goal of mine. Here's an intention of mine. Someday, I would like to lead retreats. I would like to lead retreats in really cool places in the world, like Bali and Ireland, and just some really cool spiritual places. I would love to lead retreats there. So that's an intention of mine, right? And um, I have made some progress there. I'm not going to talk about it yet, but and I would like to have a retreat center, so which would be sort of like a stable home where I could lead retreats as well. I have uh, put that out into the universe. I've made intentions. I have made movement in that direction. That sort of thing. This is opposed to just like, oh, someday, wouldn't it be nice if da da da, and treating that as a goal, right? This isn't to say that this intention is 100% guaranteed to manifest, but it is much more likely. Okay. So we can think of intention as the steering wheel, the helmsman, right? So the conscious mind being the captain of the ship, saying head off due east to the ship. And it's the helmsman's job to turn the wheel to head off due east. And ships and planes never really travel in a straight line. They pushed around by currents and currents of air. The direction they're traveling in is a little bit of an average, right? So planes are actually off 90% of a flight. They're off direction. Planes don't fly in an exact straight line. They kind of go off a little bit and they adjust, and they go off a little bit and they adjust. Ships are the same way. So it requires adjustment as you go. So you hold an intention. And I will give you, I promise before I end today, I'm going to give you a way to practice to strengthen intention. Intention and will are very much tied together. Um, my teacher, my shamanic teacher, always said intention drives the bus. Intention drives the bus. And what she meant was when we were doing journey work. So if you don't know, a shamanic journey is like a it's like a meditation. It's like when shamans go into another world, they're drumming, they enter an altered state of consciousness, and they do something, whether that's healing or divination or whatever. But holding the strong intention is what takes you to your goal when you're journeying. Some people will say, what's the difference between astral projection and shamanic journeying? And there are a number of differences, but in shamanic journeying, there's always an intention. With astral projection, sometimes it's, or astral travel, or whatever you want to call it, sometimes it's just like, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try to separate from my body to have an experience, and that will be really cool. Um, but with shamanic journeying, there's always an intention, and again, intention drives the bus. I am journeying on behalf of this person to provide healing. I am journeying to get the answer to this question. I am journeying, and you hold that intention. It's deliberate and directive. Now, intention, one way to describe intention is the way that the conscious mind plants seeds in the unconscious mind, right? So, again, my unconscious action, if I want to walk across the room right now, if I want to walk into the other room right now, I would hold the intention to get up from my chair and walk into the other room. And my unconscious mind would take over, would run the program for me to walk. I don't have to think about where I'm placing my foot and shifting my weight. And my unconscious mind even knows enough to hopefully avoid obstacles, although I've banged my shins on the coffee table more than enough times in my life. But my unconscious mind knows how to avoid obstacles. It knows how to get where I'm going. It knows, even if I set the intention, go out to the kitchen and get myself a glass of water, I don't have to think about that very much consciously. I just hold the intention. And my unconscious mind takes over all of that action. So we can use intention to communicate with our unconscious mind. The trouble we run into trouble with manifestation, with other types of work that we're trying to do when we consciously try to control unconscious action, when we try to micromanage our stuff consciously. It's like, imagine if the captain of the ship is like, I'm going to leave the bridge of the ship and I'm going to go down to the engine room and make sure that the guys running the engine are, um, have their socks pulled up or something like that, right? Well, then nobody is directing the rest of the things that are going on. And then you're probably also going down, if you're going down to the engine room to inspect the engineer's socks, you're preventing them from doing their job, right? So it's the same way with your unconscious mind, your intention, and your conscious mind. A lot of people will try and they get manifestation wrong, law of attraction wrong by trying to control the process. Your intention is the what you're trying to manifest. The how you leave up to the universe, the how, right? So let's say you have an intention. I want to find a new job that pays me at least $100,000 a year. And I would say at least, I would say 100,000 or more, because you don't want to close yourself off to potentially making more. That I will be happy in that has the following criteria. That's it. That's the what. That's what you want. And you keep feeding that information to your unconscious. And there are various ways to do that. And I really suggest people study the work of Neville Goddard if they're interested in manifestation. He's very prolific writer. He's deceased, long deceased. He was around the turn of the 20th century, I believe. Um, and he also, he writes from a very Christian perspective, but that doesn't matter. The stuff that he's teaching is gold, whether you're Christian or not. You can get a lot out of it. And a lot of the stuff that he taught, it has been borrowed, shall we say, very liberally by the manifestation and law of attraction community. But he has a lot of really fantastic ways of working with the unconscious mind and programming it, and things like, what you do right before you go to sleep, and um, he's got a lot, a bunch of different techniques that sort of build on top, but it's about setting intention with the unconscious mind. And it goes beyond affirmation. There's a lot of really deep material there. So highly recommended. Study the work of Neville Goddard. If you are not Christian, don't be put off by his very Christian language that he wrote. And you got to remember the time and where he came from, and that sort of thing. Um, uh, and if you are Christian, then you will definitely jive with his message. Um, so intention drives the bus. Intention, setting good intentions helps us have very clear outcomes, right? An intention usually involves an outcome. I'm going to get a glass of water, right? That's the outcome. Allow my unconscious mind to take over, to have my body walk across the house, take out a glass, pour water in it. Um, then I'll have a glass of water. I don't think about most or even any of those things consciously. So pay attention to that. Pay attention to things that you see repeatedly. In shamanism, we would often, when things come up like that, when, oh my gosh, I saw, I keep seeing these same type of birds over and over again every time this happens, right? We would call that an oracle, and we would read that. We would use shamanic techniques to look at that and determine what is going on in your life. Because the reason it's coming into your consciousness is that your unconscious mind is trying to surface things. Let me just give you a couple of pieces of information about your unconscious mind, and some things to keep in mind. And then I'll very briefly describe an exercise for building intention and building your willpower. It's a powerful one. Simple, but very powerful. Um, so your unconscious mind thinks in metaphors and pictures. Yes, there are words and things stored in there, and your ability to read and understand speech and all that stuff is relegated to the unconscious. Generally, if it's our native language or something that we speak fluently, we don't have to consciously parse what somebody is saying to get meaning from it. The meaning just sort of arises unconscious. So it's an unconscious process. Um, but in general, our unconscious mind thinks in pictures and emotions, pictures and feelings and metaphors. Your unconscious mind um, is not uh, is not linear and is not necessarily time bound. Where your conscious mind is very linear and very time bound. And so when we are manifesting, and I'm sure most people have studied any sort of manifestation, um, we want to treat things that we want to manifest as if they have already manifested, as if they're in the present moment. And our unconscious mind will work behind the scenes to make those things happen, to make those things true, which includes aligning parts of our spirit to attract these things into our life. And that's how the law of attraction works. But it's really important to generate the feeling. This is a real secret. This is something that Neville teaches, that you generate the feeling of having already gotten or achieved what it is you're trying to manifest. You're communicating to your unconscious mind, this is the feeling that I want to have. And this is what I want to see when I'm having that feeling. And when you do that, your manifestation work becomes 100 times more powerful. Very, very powerful. And if you can do it when you're in a state of light trance, so in a meditative state or right before going to sleep, um, that's a really good time to do your manifestation work, because this is sort of a pre-hypnotic state. Stuff goes right into your unconscious mind, passes through, your critical factor drops significantly, and so your communication with your unconscious is unlocked. Um, the doors are wide open at that point. Okay, so before I wrap up for today, I'm going to give you a brief. I'm going to briefly describe an exercise that you can do to build the muscle of your intention and your willpower. Very, very simple. What you want to do is, and you can practice this throughout the day. Before you do something, say some small action I want to do. My cell phone is sitting over here. I want to pick it up. Give yourself a mental command to do the thing you want to do, and then immediately do it. Immediately. I mean, less than a second later. Don't wait 5 minutes or whatever. We're training our intention to be reflexive and to react, and our unconscious to react to our intention very strongly. The caution here is be careful what you intend, right? Man, what that person said ticked me off. I want to punch that guy in the face. Don't do that. don't don't do that. Um, be you will be more cautious with your intention. So I see my cell phone over here. I want to pick it up. I give myself the command mentally. I don't say it out loud because then people will think I'm crazy. Um, Pick up the phone, and I do it immediately. Pick up the phone. Okay. And I give myself the command, put the phone down. You don't have to do this constantly, but practice this throughout the day. Pick up this coffee cup, take a sip. You want to do it immediately. You want there to be almost less than a second between giving the command to yourself and then following through in the intention. This will train your unconscious mind to carry through your intentions very rapidly and very powerfully, and it builds your willpower. If you always do the action that you give yourself the command to do. Okay. If you go, if I gave myself the command to pick up the phone and then I didn't do it, then I'm actually weakening my intention, weakening my willpower. So it's important to practice this correctly, right? They say practice makes perfect, but what practice makes is habit. So if you practice something imperfectly, if you practice the wrong technique of something, then you are going to repeat that when you're relegating it to your unconscious mind isn't going to correct the action for you. You have to correct it. I'll never forget I had when I was in high school, I was a musician all through high school, and I played the trumpet, and I had a solo in my senior year. I was playing a solo in a concert, and there was a rhythm. There was a tricky rhythm that I had trouble with, and I kept getting it wrong over and over again because that's how I had practiced it. And my director was like, pulling his hair out, like, it's not that, it's this. It's this rhythm. Like, you've got this rhythm wrong, you know. And it took me a lot to untrain that. I had to I had to essentially wipe out the training that I had done by training it correctly over and over and over again. So when I played it in concert, I finally played the rhythm correctly. Um, so practice does not necessarily make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. Correct practice makes perfect. And a real secret to that is, so again, like, I taught martial arts for years, and I would have students practice in slow motion. They're like, "Why are we going so slow? I just, I feel like if somebody punches me, I'm not going to react quickly enough." And I go, "You will, but you haven't made this motion unconscious yet, and you won't ever do that by doing it too fast. And if you do it too fast, it's going to be sloppy. So what we want is slow and smooth, and do the slow and smooth, thousands of times. And this, you won't even have to think about this. Your body will just do it." And students who got good paid attention. And this was something I learned from my teacher. He would have us do everything very, very slowly. And he would say there are three speeds. Slow is for learning, medium speed is for practice, like when you're on your own and you have gotten a grasp of this motion. this movement that you're supposed to make, you have built it into your unconscious neurology. Then when you're, then when you're home on your own or with a partner, you can practice at medium speed, but you never go fast, because fast is when you actually need to use this for self-defense. We never go fast. It's too dangerous, right? And you don't need to. Like, when you need speed, you'll have it as long as the movement is unconscious. If I had to consciously think, this person is punching me now, I need to move to the side and parry his punch. I've been punched 20 times by the time that thought comes up. So everything had to become unconscious muscle memory. So with that, I hope this has been interesting. I hope you've learned a few things. I hope you've learned a few useful things. I think in May, I'm actually, no, in June. I think in June, I'm actually teaching a course on Learn It Live, about the conscious unconscious split. And so, something to keep in mind. It's a free class. It's on my schedule of events on my website, or you can go to Learn It Live and find out more about that. With that, I'm going to wrap up for the day. Thank you all for joining me. Happy Friday, everybody. Have a fantastic weekend. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate you joining me. Practice your intention, practice your intentionality. And I will leave you all with that. My love to you all. Have a very nice weekend as